You're listening to the Ballroom Network. The following program is intended for all audiences. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Goon Podcast with your hosts, Joe Mandel, the Goon, John Santucci, the Tooch, and the man with the plan, Adam Shum. We're bringing you the fantasy football knowledge that you need every single week.
Derrick Henry still going. He might go. 99 yards for the touchdown. Unbelievable.
Flushed out again all the way back. Turning the corner. Fires downfield. Caught. Touchdown. Only Mahomes turns what might have been a 15-yard sack into a 27-yard touchdown.
Saquon Barkley across midfield, down the sideline, stayed in bounds, and Barkley takes it all the way. 68 yards for his first NFL touchdown. McCaffrey right up the middle, and he is gone for the touchdown. 58 yards. This is to Thomas. He's gone. Touchdown Saints.
Okay, it's time for the easiest part of any coach's job, the cut. Now, while I wasn't able to cut everyone I wanted to, I have cut a lot of you. Steven, I like your hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you. Congratulations, the rest of you made the team. Except you, and you.
God bless fantasy football. There are many things a man can do with his time. And this is better than those things.
Yeah, week 3 starts and sits. Fantasy football, Goon, the Goon taking the weekend off. We got Steven Zimmerman filling in, give us a little fantasy perspective, and Papa Bear, Adam Shum, right up there in the right-hand corner of your screen. I'm Tooch. Let's see if we got some questions already. Who's here? Let's go. A lot of inactives. Okay, here, first question comes from Joe Man. What the heck? Parkinson or Gesicki at tight end this week, fellas?
I'm playing Joe this week, so no answer.
No answer. Yeah, not fair. No fair.
I've thought about this one long and hard on a couple of teams myself, and I'm sticking with Parkinson this week with all the guys out for the Rams.
Yeah. Yep.
And with Higgins coming back, Gesicki's targets might go down. Good
point. Yep, I will concur with Papa Bear on that one. Gesicki, they're playing the Commanders, man, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Gesicki's he's not really a tight end. He's a slot receiver, you know? Yeah. And the Commanders are terrible versus the slot receivers, so I'm going to go with Gesicki. Let's see. Good waiver wire pickup for running back or wide receiver from Ryan Kirkland Billings.
Waiver wire pickup for running back or wide receiver?
Yeah.
Wide receiver, I'm going Juwan Jennings for the 49ers.
Yep, that's my guy too, man.
I like that one.
Running back, give me Khalil Herbert.
There you go. I think Khalil Herbert needs to see more work.
Today's the day against the Colts, last place, Steve. They're allowing 237 yards rushing per game. Come on, there's got to be. He had a touchdown last week.
Yeah, I'd like to see Swift get going in the passing game today and Herbert on the ground.
Yep. If the Bears want to win that game, they got to run the ball today. Foster Cover says Gesicki with Burrow and that connection.
We'll see. Gesicki's been getting a very, very high target share, but again, Higgins was out, so we'll see how that affects things.
Yep. Cam Akers. Oops, sorry about that. Cam Akers is a good pickup too. Yep. He's starting in place of the injured Joe Mixon.
I picked him up, and he's just wasting space on my bench because I like my other backs better this week.
Let's go through some inactive. Jordan Love will not be playing today. Joe Mixon will not be playing today. Josh Palmer out. Keenan Allen out. Let's see. Shout him out if you know him before me. Debo Samuel, George Kittle out.
Yeah.
Evan Engram out. Cooper Kupp, of course, we know
Cooper
that
Kupp's
he's out.
obviously out. Justin Herbert's a game time decision, but it sounds like he's going to play. But
it does sound like he's leaning towards it, but he does have a high ankle sprain, which for a quarterback is always difficult because, you really have to have that strong base under you. So
then again, they're probably going to go out there and just run the hell out of the ball and keep him safe. So that's probably why he's like, I can execute this game plan today, coach.
Jordan Addison for the Vikings out. David Njoku out for the Browns. Try to find any others here. Shout them out again if you know. Taysom Hill out for the Saints.
Yeah.
Did not know he was injured. All right.
Injured this week.
Let's see what we got here. Might as well get into our starts and sits while we were waiting for questions. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to go to banners here, get these ones going here. Joe also gave us his – he just did starts of the week, right? He didn't give all the –
I think so.
Okay, good. All right, so the Goon is out today. He's got prop plays. He's got starts of the week, so let's take a look at those. Joe Burrow, versus that horrible Washington pass defense.
Yep.
Brian Robinson, solid play. Godwin versus Denver should be taking away some. You figure PS2 is going to be on Evans. So he likes Trey McBride versus Detroit. I also like that play. Buccaneers defense versus Denver. Let's head over to quarterbacks. We got Zim. Why don't you tell us a little bit about these ones?
Yeah, I got Baker Mayfield versus Denver. Denver's defense is not what it once was. I think we all know that by now. But a lot of people stay away from this one because the Mike Evans and PS2 matchup there. It's not enough to concern me. He's going to have his opportunities. It sounds like Rachaad White is probably playing.
He's healthy now, they say.
I was going to say, I think that's still technically up in the air because I believe that's a 1:00 game. But regardless, excuse me, I'm stumbling over my words here. The middle of that Denver defense just isn't very good still. And it leaves it wide open for opportunities. And we've already seen that Mike Evans getting taken away last week did not affect Baker Mayfield's ability to throw the ball, get it downfield. Evans had very few opportunities, but he capitalized when it counted. And that's why he's one of the best. Next up, Brock Purdy at the Rams. The Rams, again, a team that is not very good this year. Defense that is definitely down from years prior. And Brock Purdy, he has yet to really kind of pop off this season. I think this is a game where he has the chance to finally do that. He has a chance to be the guy that we saw, in the playoffs and at the end of last season. That's not just kind of dinking and dunking, but he's really taking control of the field, managing the game, not just managing what he can manage. And lastly, I've got Derek Carr versus Philly. I don't know why, but a lot of people are not very high on Derek Carr still this season. I think that the Saints have shown who they are. I don't think it's a fluke by any means. If anything, I think that Dallas winning in week 1 was more of a fluke than them losing last week, to be completely honest. Derek Carr looks legit. He looks like he's finally comfortable down there in his Saints uniform. Took a season for him to settle in, but the chemistry with those receivers is for real. Rashid Shaheed has become a real weapon for that offense all the way around. And it's opened up a lot of things that, Derek Carr, I think he's back to his prime Raider days. I think he is back to a threat to score 40 fantasy points every single week.
All right. Yeah. The Eagles defense allowing, about 20 points to the quarterback position. The top team allowing the most points to the quarterback position is the Commanders, and Adam's going to take advantage of that with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Joe mentioned on his starts, Joe Burrow, this should be the week he gets back on track and looks like the Joe Burrow we're used to. Washington secondary is horrible. Hopefully T. Higgins is back. He's got all his weapons there, and against that defense, it should blow up. I expect at least 30 from Burrow this week. And then I like Dak Prescott versus Baltimore. Baltimore has been really bad, actually, on defense so far through 2 weeks. They've given up, I think, the most pass yards in the league. Dak Prescott, we know they love to throw the ball a whole bunch all over the place. So even if Baltimore gets ahead, I actually like that even better, and Dak's going to throw even more and more. So I think Dak's going to just stack up yardage in this game. And then I'll take C.J. Stroud at Minnesota. He was a little down against the Bears last week. I look for him to bounce back. Minnesota's defense has been good, but they got a lot of guys to cover on this one. I think Stroud bounces back and has a big game this week. I think Houston actually just rolls over Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm with you on Prescott, man. Look, teams pass on Baltimore because they have a very good run defense. Their pass defense is terrible, though.
Yeah, it's real bad.
I mean, they gave. I mean, it wasn't hard for Gardner Minshew to move the ball up and down the field against that pass secondary and pass defense for the Ravens last week. So I'm with you with the Dak Prescott. I also like Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield. Zim has today. I'd also look. The Chiefs are giving up a lot of pass plays. Their pass defense isn't as good without L'Jarius Sneed, who they let walk to the Titans in the offseason. They're giving up about 21 points per game to the quarterback. So Kirk Cousins, I also want to kind of throw in there a little bit. And then that Rams and Cowboys game should be a shootout, with all the injuries and stuff. Man, I expect these teams to be disappointed. I mean, the Rams defense is banged up. Their offense is banged up. It's I think they probably got more injured guys than they do healthy guys on the Rams. But,
Rams 49ers, the whole game's injured.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's basically a preseason game with how many backups are going to be in there.
Yep. So we're moving on to the running back position. Go back to Zim here. Running back starts.
Yeah, I got Brian Robinson Jr. at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's pass defense has been really solid, and I think that's something that the Commanders are going to have to work to overcome. And what's the easiest way to get a rookie quarterback passing game going? That's run the ball. So I think Brian Robinson Jr. is going to get his opportunities. That is a stout Cincinnati defensive line for sure. But if anything, we've seen that, you chip away in this league, eventually you're going to break through. So I think he's got a good opportunity to do that. Zach Charbonnet versus Miami is my number 2. He really made the most of an opportunity last week. Miami's defense is not anything world beating. They're pretty much league average across the board. So I think that that Charbonnet has a really good chance to continue a strong showing from last week and keep going. Rashad White, a guy we talked about earlier, playing against Denver. Again, I have no faith in the Denver defense, to be completely honest. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have to find a way to score one way or another. And while, Baker Mayfield is a guy that I think is going to get his opportunities in this game, Rashad White, I think, also feasts. I think this is an offensive dominant game for Tampa Bay. And frankly, I mean, you'll probably see Tampa Bay's defense at some point later on in this game too, because Denver is just really kind of off the rails to start the season, and we'll see if it continues that way or not. So it's hard to pick against anybody who's playing against Denver this season.
Real quick question here. Quentin Johnson or Wan'Dale Robinson?
I go Quentin Johnson, mainly because Palmer's out. And Johnston, is coming off a really strong performance where his quarterback is going to have some faith in him. Exactly. Tooch, you were on him last week. He went off for 2 touchdowns on 5 catches, if I remember right. And, Palmer being out is only going to increase his target share. Wan'Dale Robinson, it's too hard to trust Daniel Jones to me. That's what it honestly boils down to. Yeah. Daniel Jones to me is the modern day Rex Grossman. You don't know what guy's going to hit the field that week, and he's either going to look like a top 10 quarterback or like a guy who should be in the CFL. And you don't know.
All
I
right.
would actually go against the grain on that one. I would take Wan'Dale Robinson. I think, like we talked about, Herbert's questionable. I think they're going to run it a lot. The Giants are going to be probably playing from behind against the Browns almost the whole game, I think. I think the Browns are just going to run all over the Giants. And the Giants play from behind, and it may be ugly, and you don't want to watch it, but we really don't care about that for fantasy reasons. Wan'Dale Robinson gets a lot of targets in that offense.
Yep.
And playing from behind, that may pay off in a PPR league.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
The Chargers they're going to do everything they can to get Herbert in that game. You don't want to see Easton stick, right?
Yeah.
Is that the backup there? It's like, I imagine it's probably a wash, but with Palmer out, I kind of lean Johnston. Wan'Dale Robinson, though, he does get a lot of targets, but Malik Neighbors is there too. He gets a lot of targets too. It's probably a wash.
It's with Johnson, you're dependent on touchdowns. With Robinson, you're dependent on the catches, the receptions, you know. I mean, week 1, Johnson had like 3 catches for 30 yards. Week 2
Yeah.
looked good because he caught 2 touchdowns on 5 catches.
Right, and he only had 6 targets. He was 5 of 6. So.
Exactly. That's, I mean, you're counting on that touchdown with him. With Robinson, you're just counting on a bunch of receptions, even if they're short.
That's a tough question, man. So Watson and Wicks in Green Bay or Pitts for a flex spot. Look,
I'd go Pitts.
It's a tough defense with 2 good cornerbacks on Titans.
This is probably for his guillotine team, I think.
Yeah. Go Pitts, because the worst team.
Play them all.
The team that gives up the most fantasy points versus the tight end is ironically the Chiefs. So I got to go Pitts.
Yeah, I would play Pitts.
I mean, by a large margin, the Chiefs are 8 points more than any other team to the tight end.
Packers got Malik Willis starting again, so.
Yes.
Yep.
And we saw a very, very run-heavy team with
Exactly.
Got to be Pitts.
They don't trust him to throw the ball a bunch, so.
How could you?
Cousins, we know, will throw it 40 times if you let him.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to Adam's running backs.
I love Jordan Mason, obviously, as he's filled in now for McCaffrey, and he's got a great matchup versus that Rams crappy defense right now. He should see a ton of work with the receivers, with Kittle out and Debo out, all that. It should only just be a bigger workload, I think, for Jordan Mason. I think you're playing him every week right now as long as he's the guy. And honestly, I think even when McCaffrey comes back, he may still be a decent play because I doubt they're going to overload McCaffrey at all this season. So, and then I love Jahmyr Gibbs today versus Arizona. I think that could be a shootout game. Detroit and Arizona might need to make more dump-off passes to the running back to keep up pace with Arizona. Arizona plays fast, man. I mean, Kyler likes to get up there and go and throw it down the field and keep it moving. And Detroit's been slow going on offense so far, their passing game. So getting Gibbs going on the short passes may be a key to get that on track. And then I'm taking my chances with Tony Pollard. Man, he's quietly gotten a lot of work so far this year. He looked good against the Bears. He looked pretty good again last week.
Yeah.
Versus Green Bay, you know, we talked about Malik Willis, and they're going to try to run the ball. Tennessee's probably going to try to do the same thing back because, I mean, we know Will Levis just turns it over like crazy. So why not try to do what you're best at, and that's run Tony Pollard right now. So
Packers have been bad against the run.
Yeah, but they always seem to be bad against the run. I mean, even the Bears usually can run against the Packers when they can do nothing else.
All right, and I think you and I are in agreement. I also have Tony Pollard. I also like Zamir White. The Panthers are giving up almost 30 points a game to running backs. Cowboys are the top team given. So I mean, but you're putting King Henry out there anyways. You already know that. And then I got Zach Charbonnet versus the Dolphins. Dolphins haven't shown they can stop the run. If we're adding another one, I would add Travis Etienne because the Bills have been terrible against the run. So I just don't know if they're going to be playing from behind. But with Tank Bigsby banged up, I think Etienne's a really good play today. Do we have any more questions? Trey McBride, 50+ receiving from Joe. I'm getting to that today, buddy. I got Joe's prop plays for today. Moving to tight ends. Zim.
Brock Bowers versus Carolina. Brock Bowers, he's feasting so far. Looking a lot like Laporta did last year.
He's probably even better, honestly.
Exactly.
He's more of a receiver. Laporta's more of the tight end typical. Man,
That's
Bowers is legit.
And with Bowers, it was always just a matter of where he got drafted, what team he went to. And it looks like he's in the right situation out there in Vegas. So taking him versus Carolina to continue a strong start to his season. Next, I had Jonnu Smith at Seattle. I can't give you any more detail than this is just a gut feeling. I don't really have anything to back it up. It looked like a good matchup on paper, and my gut said to go with it. And last, I have Dalton Kincaid versus Jacksonville. Kincaid's kind of had a slow start to the season, but started to pick it up a little bit last week towards mid-game, towards the end of the game. Josh Allen is looking good as he's ever looked. And I just think everybody's going to get involved in the pass game today. It for whatever reason seems like a game that could end up being a high scoring affair to me. Jacksonville and Buffalo's defenses are both kind of susceptible in certain situations. So I think that if it does end up being that high scoring game, Kincaid gets a lot of looks, a lot of targets, and could run up the score for PPR leagues specifically.
Jacksonville really good versus the tight end. Only less than 2 points, fantasy points versus the tight end.
Right.
The problem, I understand they want to get Kincaid going.
Exactly. And we're only 2 games into the season. It's real easy to look elite through 2 games and then to have the wheels completely fall off, and not saying that's going to happen, but how many 2-0 teams have we seen finish 8-8,
Yep. Yeah. The like I said, the Chiefs are the worst against the tight end, 23 points per game to the tight end. Second is the Panthers. You have to go Brock Bowers. The third is the Rams, what I want to ask you guys about, because the Rams are playing the 49ers, and Kittle is out. So who's going to take Kittle's place? Anybody know?
I don't even know who's playing for who's their backup is.
I don't either. Maybe the chat.
I do not know the answer to that. That's why I've been on Juwan Jennings. He's got to be the guy to get more targets.
And he's almost tight end size, Jennings.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy seems to love him. I mean, he's targeting him with healthy Kittle out there and stuff. So, I mean.
All right, here we go. With Walker and Debo out, I need a wide receiver and a flex. Got to go Juwan Jennings. So Walker is Kenneth Walker, right?
Yeah. I think he's saying Kenneth Walker and Debo are out. So
I go Juwan Jennings and Demarcus Robinson, just with all the injuries on the Rams with Puka and Cooper Kupp. Stafford, I expect to probably be playing from behind.
Yeah. I'm playing Jennings for sure, and then maybe Kirk. It's between Kirk and Robinson for me, probably.
Yeah, I'm going Jennings and Robinson.
Like Zim said, I could see unexpectedly that Jags-Bills game scoring more points than we're thinking right now. Just
people have been throwing on the 49ers, man. They're fourth, giving up 30, almost 36 points per game to the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the Rams
might be best playing the 2 guys in that same game, Jennings and Robinson, where they kind of go back and forth.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's tough. John.
Yeah, I like Johnston. I might go Jennings Johnston.
Yeah, for me it's Jennings and Robinson, but I like Quentin Johnson, but the Herbert questionable status kind of makes me hesitant. But Adams,
that's a tough situation, John. I am not jealous.
Adams tight end starts Dallas Goedert, New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm taking Goddard breaking out today for the first big game of the year. Historically, he does well when A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith is out. This will be the second game without A.J. Brown in there. And versus New Orleans, like Zim talked about, New Orleans is scoring like 35 points a game. So I kind of expect this one to be the Philadelphia trying to keep up as well. So, and it's in New Orleans. So on the road, they got to keep up. Jalen Hurts might throw a lot. Give me Dallas Goedert and get a touchdown today. And then I do like Mike Gesicki still against Washington. I like Gesicki and Parkinson, as Joe's question was earlier. I think Gesicki, I really want to see it this week with a healthy T. Higgins and everybody around him, and then we'll really know how legit he's going to be for the season, because we've seen flashes of Gesicki before with Miami even, and he's crazy athletic like Brock Bowers, but Brock Bowers is like Gesicki plus right now, but anyway, they lined up the same kind of way. But I like Gesicki versus Washington. We talked about how bad that defense is, and then we just talked about the San Francisco Rams game going back and forth. Parkinson should get more targets with all the guys out, no Kupp, all that going on. So, tight end's just been horrible so far this season. So it's like all you're trying to get is like 6 or 7 points at this point, and you're happy. And if you get a touchdown, you're thrilled. So give me the targets with Parkinson, I think, and I'll take my chances. I am taking my chances.
I got McBride. He's not really – he lines up in the slot a ton. Lions are terrible versus the slot. Bowers, you have to go versus the Panthers' terrible defense. And then Gesicki versus the Commanders' pass defense. So we're kind of all in agreement on a lot of these. For the what?
I had a feeling this is how it was going to be today. There's going to be a lot of agreement on a lot of these starts. We'll see how the sits end up going, but there's a lot of favorable matchups in the league this week. And if you have one of these guys, it's kind of a no-brainer, I guess is the way to put it. But more than anything, it's just so early into the season. You have to stick with what you're seeing so far. Yeah. So, as we go through the season, get into weeks, 6, 7, 8, that's where you'll start to see us extrapolate further and really like spread out. But for right now, there's only so much we can do, right?
100%.
Yeah, we're in prove it season right now where you got to, I don't take a lot of risks early in the year. I like to see what's happening, and you got to see it more than once. And like the Gesicki thing, I got to see that that's going to be legit before I'm like, oh, I'm in on Gesicki or I'm trading for Gesicki. And I got to see it with Higgins out there and stuff,
Yep.
Yeah, I totally get it. I think wide receiver is where we're going to start to differ a little more here finally, though. So hopefully, fingers crossed, a little less echo chamber from here forward. But so far, I've got Malik Neighbors at Cleveland. Neighbors got a ton of targets last week. And I don't see any reason that he wouldn't continue to see that. He got 6 targets, I believe, his first week, which is a lot for a rookie's first game. And then he wound up coming out with like 14 or something silly like that last week. And it was the highest target percentage that any receiver's gotten since like Calvin Johnson was in the league. So if Jones is going to look that way that often, you kind of just have to keep him in your lineup. He's a set it and forget it kind of guy at this point. And I don't think it matters who he's playing. So I'm really not even going to go into too much about the matchup or anything. I think it's just strictly about the team he's on and the guy who's throwing to him. Next up, I got Darnell Mooney versus Kansas City. As Tooch mentioned earlier, Kansas City's defense has been a little more susceptible to the pass, letting Snead go over the offseason. And Mooney has become a trust guy for Cousins. Weirdly enough, usually it's like a tight end or a running back, a dump off kind of guy. But Mooney has just shown considerable ability to separate, to be the guy that we saw in Chicago for a couple of seasons. These veteran quarterbacks love Darnell Mooney for whatever reason. So I tell you this, if Penix comes in, I don't expect Mooney to get the same target share. I don't expect him to get the same looks, but as long as Cousins is throwing the ball, again, it's just as much a situation as with Malik Neighbors about who's throwing him the ball. But in this situation, the matchup also works very much in his favor. Lastly, I got, another rookie wide receiver. I came on our preseason show and I said, hammer the rookie wide receivers. And I'm showing it right now that I still believe in it 3 weeks into the season. Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Detroit. That's going to be like we said already, a speedy game, a fast game. And that's going to lead to a lot of opportunity on offense for both teams. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to find a way to get open. He's bigger, he's faster, he's stronger. It's not fair. And he's going to get his catches this week.
Yeah, and you saw that confidence between him and Kyler last week. It's
going
to go from there.
They got that first deep one, and all of a sudden Kyler was just like, oh, this is way better than Call of Duty.
And this is easy.
All right. Adams, wide receiver starts.
Give me Devontae Smith at New Orleans today. I'm not sure if Marshawn Lattimore's playing or not. He was out last week, I know, but either way, Devontae Smith's so good, such a route runner. We talked about how they're probably going to be keeping up in this game. I think it's a lot of points scored, and Devontae Smith dominates when A.J. Brown's not out there. So give me Devontae Smith all day long. And then Brandon Ayuk should step up here. This should be his breakout game of the season, I think, for the 49ers. We've talked about that game and the points getting scored. No Debo, no Kittle, no McCaffrey. Brandon Ayuk's their best player at that point on the offense. So it's time he earns that money he wanted and held out for. And then same deal with Chris Olave. He's had 2 pretty bad games so far, but I think today he breaks out. Philadelphia's secondary is terrible. They're one of the worst pass defenses all of last year and doesn't look any better this year. Chris Olave should get some more targets today. I think Derek Carr's got to get him going. They can't keep scoring 40 points and leaving their best player out of it. It's just one of those things. Squeaky wheel's going to happen soon. So give me Olave to break out today. He's a guy I'd be trying to buy low if you can trade for in places, He's a target monster out there, and they're going to need him down the stretch. They're not going to win every game by 20 or 30 points.
All right, and we're probably on alignment here. I got Olave too. Also like Chris Godwin. PS2 is going to be paying a lot of attention to Evans. I mean, Godwin's been a monster in the slot. Just touchdowns, catches, yards. I like Godwin. I think he's probably a must start every week, though. And I like Jamar Chase. This is it, man. If he's not going to break out today versus that weak Commanders secondary.
I think it's a monster game.
Today is the day you play Jamar Chase, man.
Yeah.
Right?
He can win your matchup today, I think.
Hey, he might have just had a slow start. You know, it's almost like practice matters.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. All right, defensive starts for Zim.
Defense. All right, I know all three of us have this one. So to start it off, Chicago at Indianapolis. The Bears defense looks like it could be another historic unit for an offensively inept team, which means they're going to get lots of opportunities for takeaways, lots of opportunities to rush the passer. Historically, though, the Bears don't do the best against running quarterbacks. So
that's my concern is him escaping on them.
That's exactly it. You know, if they don't contain and Richardson gets to run, it could be a long day. On the other hand, Richardson has not shown the cognitive ability to recognize that he can do that all day. Granted, he's only played 7 NFL games. So we don't really know what he's seeing out there. We don't know how he's going to respond to some of these situations. Maybe today's the day it clicks in, but ultimately I'm banking on it not being that. Anthony Richardson will now be starting his 20th game since high school. That's not NFL game. That's not college. That's total 20 games since high school. And he's going against an elite Chicago defense. I look for them to definitely capitalize, possibly even score a defensive touchdown this week. I don't think it would be absurd to call the shot on that one, so to say. Next up, Buffalo versus Jacksonville. I know I said this could be a high-scoring game, but when it gets into high-scoring games and you have a lot of passes being thrown, a strong defense, and a weak quarterback. Sorry, it's more the weak quarterback than the strong defense. I know I'm contradicting a little bit what I said earlier, but when it comes down to it, who am I banking on to make the mistakes? Well, it's the guy who's been 0-8 with something like 20 turnovers in his last 8 games, and that's Trevor Lawrence. He's turning the ball over a lot. He's not showing a lot of confidence, and if they get into this situation where they end up having to throw themselves out of it, he's going to throw some picks. And he's going to be open for sacks as well. So, like I say, should this turn into a high-scoring game, the fourth quarter is just going to be tasty for the Buffalo defense. Lastly, I have San Francisco at LA. I know a lot of guys are injured on both sides of the ball for both of these teams, but San Francisco's defense is still a very good unit, and they are still relatively healthy compared to the rest of the team. So Fred Warner's still out there directing traffic. He's going to put people in the right position. He's going to know what he's looking for against Matt Stafford. He's studied him like nobody else. I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch personally, even with all the backups in there. But I think San Francisco's defense is just going to be able to overpower LA without their 2 top receivers.
All right, man. I mean, you know what? To me, look, San Francisco's defense has not been that good this season, man. Would you guys agree? And it's not the same 49ers defense. I know they have time to turn it around and stuff, but through 2 weeks, I don't think it's like a defense that you can really fear. But the Rams are so banged up, it's a good start today. But to me, I think there'll be points in this game. I don't know. What do you think, Adam?
The Rams have lost like 2 linemen already, and Joey Bosa's out there, so I kind of like that.
I'm not saying it's a bad start. I'm just saying that the Niners defense is down, man.
It's definitely not what it was, no doubt. And even last year, their secondary was not very good last year.
Yeah,
it's mostly
I like
pressure.
the play.
It's creating pressure.
I would start them too because the Rams' offensive line is maybe worse than the Bears.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. And like I said, they lost 2 guys in the first game, and then they've got all their receivers out. It's like, there's definitely a chance for a big play there.
Yeah.
As fantasy goes, because ultimately that's what.
Exactly.
That's what we're coming down to at the end of the day.
I'm talking about generally like in NFL. Yeah.
Right. No, as fantasy goes, though, they are dead middle of the league. They are, they've scored 15 or 14 points, good for 15th for all defenses, which if you're playing week to week, if you're streaming defenses, that's where I say San Francisco is a kind of team to look at right now. I know it's real close to kickoff here, but that's where I think San Francisco plays for a lot of people is as a streaming defense.
For sure. I mean, I think the Rams could put up points on them today, though. You know, I don't think the Rams are going to get shut out. That's a huge rivalry, but
no, but I think San Francisco gets the turnovers.
I think San Francisco could get the turnovers and the touchdowns. Yep. All right, Adam, go ahead.
All right, well, I won't go into the Bears again. We know how Zim kind of covered all that. Anthony Richardson should turn it over at some point in that game.
Yep.
We hope it goes for 6. Same kind of thing with Packers versus Tennessee. Will Levis likely going to turn it over at some point. If the Packers can just stop the run, they're going to force him to throw. Will Levis is going to throw some horrible turnovers. We've seen it. The worst you'll ever imagine.
Yep. You think Levis does it a third week in a row? Some dumb backwards play that.
I mean, I don't put it out of question.
And if you're Tennessee, do you start thinking about benching the guy if he does?
I mean,
they're just dumb mistakes. And it's free, you know, as far as fantasy goes, it's free points, you know?
Yeah. No. So, yeah, give me the Packers. I'll take my chances there. And same thing. I got the same theme with all these teams. The Browns versus the Giants. You know, they're going to be ahead. Daniel Jones is probably going to start throwing it a bunch. It's going to lead to turnovers. He makes about as stupid as mistakes as Will Levis. He'll throw it backwards or falling down over his head or whatever. You know, it's like you'll get some kind of crazy Daniel Jones moment when they get behind. So then the Browns defense is great anyway. So give me that against a horrible offense.
Yep, they're at home. I'm with you on that. Browns today versus the Giants. I mean, look, the Giants' offensive line is bad too. I think. I mean, even I have the same plays.
Yeah, you got all three the same.
Same plays. Yep. Zim sleeper stats.
Yeah. So I got Brandon Cooks versus.
I love this play. I love Cooks
like
today.
that.
Yeah. Cooks to me, this just seems like the kind of game where Cooks could really just have a day.
I agree.
You know they're going to bracket CeeDee Lamb, and we've already seen the Ravens make some brain dead decisions out there on defense. You know, to me, what I was thinking about when I made this pick was I was thinking about Xavier Worthy's debut against the Ravens. I think Brandon Cooks could have a similar sort of game where he might not get a ton of touches, but the touches he does get really, you know, take advantage of his speed, take advantage of space, and get him opportunities to score. I have Daniel Jones at Cleveland. To be completely honest, I had a couple drinks at this point, and when you have a couple drinks, you really like Daniel Jones. I mean, what else can I say? The guy throws the ball a ton if he connects, and this is why it's a sleeper start, because if he connects, if it starts to really look good, you know, we're pumping up Malik Neighbors here on the show. We're pumping up Wan'Dale Robinson here on the show. If Daniel Jones gets his opportunities and comes out as good Rex this week, you know,
he's had 40-point fantasy days before.
That's
the
just
key
it.
for him is running. He needs to scramble with it. And now he's got Neighbors, so maybe he can scramble and actually throw it.
Neighbors was off the board when the Bears picked, but man, Neighbors was my favorite receiver in this draft.
Neighbors was very good. My dad and I talk a lot of draft, and when it came around, we were legitimately talking if he was better than Marvin Harrison Jr. as the true number one receiver in the draft, man.
Yep.
We've been on him for a minute, so I'm happy to see him succeeding with Daniel Jones as his quarterback. At the end of the day, Daniel Jones has a shot, and that's why it's a sleeper and not a lock, you know. It's an opportunity. It's a good opportunity. And if I'm wrong, you know, hey, that's why it's a sleeper pick. And then lastly, I got Jerry Jeudy versus the Giants. Same game, other side of the field. Jerry Jeudy has sneakily been a really good fantasy option at wide receiver this year.
Yeah.
He's scored 12 to 13 points in both games. He's getting looks from Watson. And he's converting those looks like when he's given the opportunity. I think a lot of his problem in Denver was drops and lack of separation. And it seems like both of those things are happening out in Cleveland. And maybe it's just the fact that he's opposite of a true number one rather than kind of who is the number one, you know, which is what his old situation was. So,
not bad.
Jeudy just
for years that he was uncoverable in camp. From Broncos beat reporters.
Yeah, I saw it with my own two eyes. I mean, I went to Broncos training camps, and the guy looks really good when you're not allowed to make contact.
Dude, I'm all over Tank Dell in this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Not with Malik Willis, Jaden. I mean, look, I like Jaden Reed with Jordan Love at quarterback. Tank Dell, I
Yeah.
think, is man.
Tank Dell's due for a good game here.
Yeah, he was so close the other day. I mean,
Yeah.
he missed like a 50-yard touchdown the other day. Was that against the Colts? And then last week missed out on a few opportunities against the Bears. He's so close to breaking out, Tank Dell, man. I'm on Dell. You guys are with me on this one?
Yeah, for sure.
I think so. My number one thing is the quarterback situation.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm not playing any Packers receivers till Love's back.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Adam, sleepers.
I like Samaje Perine for the Chiefs at Atlanta. I mean, in general, I'm kind of just staying away from that backfield. But if you got one of these guys, these were the hot waiver wire guys.
You kind of want to see it first.
Right, exactly.
Right?
But I've seen Perine in the league for a long time. I've seen Perine dominate in college. He can definitely be that third down guy, and he can take some carries off him. Or take some carries off of those other guys if they need to. I don't really see Carson Steele being an every down back out there. So Perine's experience, I'll take it. He's going to be great in the passing game. And then Deontay Johnson today, I think he could bounce back with Andy Dalton at quarterback for the Panthers today versus Las Vegas. Deontay Johnson's got nothing going with Bryce Young, but we know how great of a route runner Deontay Johnson is. Andy Dalton will be smart enough to take advantage of that and try to get some easy passes going, I think, with him. And then we talked about Juwan Jennings. He's a waiver wire guy in a lot of leagues you can grab and should get a lot of targets today versus the Rams with all the missing components of the San Francisco offense.
Yep. You and I are in lockstep with Juwan Jennings. I've also got him. I think he has a big day today. Minshew versus the Panthers, man. Come on.
Yeah, I like
if you're looking for a streaming quarterback, I take against that Panthers defense. Minshew moved the ball against the Ravens, but the Ravens, their defense is not. They lost so many players on defense in the offseason, but it's not the same Ravens defense. And then I like Khalil Herbert today, man. I think if the Bears are smart, they're going to run the ball a lot versus that terrible Colts defense. And then the guy the better runner, I think, is Herbert over Swift. I like Swift, but to me, Herbert's a better pure runner, just yards per carry. I think Herbert's averaging like 3 yards per carry, and Herbert's more like 4 or 5 yards per carry. So I think that's what the Bears want to do.
Swift is really fast and athletic, but he's really not a very good running back.
No, he's a more of a receiver out of the backfield.
Exactly. He's way better as a receiver than he is a running back.
Start 2 in PPR. I start Jameson Williams and Juwan Jennings.
I think I'm aligned. I'm kind of at a coin flip, excuse me, between Waddle and Jennings. But with Tua being out, that kind of brings me down on Waddle a little bit. We don't know how Skylar Thompson's going to handle that.
Yep.
I love that the Dolphins are sticking with him. I'll tell you that much because he's been there all of camp. He knows what he's doing. So there's a chance that Waddle still has a productive game, but Jennings seems safer. And Jameson Williams this season, he's been unstoppable. He looks like he genuinely may take Amon-Ra St. Brown's spot.
Yep, I agree. Adam?
Yeah, I like Jameson Williams for sure on this one, and probably Juwan Jennings.
Yeah,
Jalen
Jalen Johnson should be on Pittman, right?
Pittman.
And maybe they rotate Pittman and Alec Pierce,
I don't know how you can confidently count on any Colts receiver right now.
And not in this matchup for sure.
In this matchup in particular, but overall, just until Anthony Richardson hasn't established a rapport with any of these guys. And because of that, to me, they're all just dart throws. So,
yeah, the Bears have allowed less than 19 or less points their last 5 games to other teams. So, I mean, if you're looking for points, it's not going to be in that game. Let's see where we're at here. Banners.
The Bears got to shut down Jonathan Taylor and protect the edges from Anthony Richardson.
We're on sits.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift at Indianapolis. He has been piss poor this season. A lot of us thought that he'd be a real fantasy weapon for the Bears, and he has been anything but. If he's going to have a get-right game, it's going to be today. But, as we mentioned with Khalil Herbert, if the Bears play their cards right, Herbert's going to get the goal line opportunities most likely, and that's what matters the most. Alec Pierce versus Chicago. I know that Foster in the chat just mentioned Pierce has put up fantasy numbers. He has, but he hasn't. He's put up very dubious fantasy numbers because most of his fantasy points have come on 2 long touchdowns. You take away those touchdowns, which the Chicago defense absolutely can and probably will do. All of a sudden, he's also only putting up 2 to 3 points a game. So, yeah, I know that 2 of my sits are in the same game for teams that you might not necessarily be trying to start anyway. And that's why I put up Mike Evans versus Denver. I know it's hard. Like I said earlier, it's hard to put down anybody when they play against Denver. However, Denver has one true all-pro on their team, and he's going to be lined up against Mike Evans all game long. I think Evans is going to be really limited in targets. I think we're talking a maximum of like 5 to 7 targets in this game. And if he converts half of those, I'll be impressed. I think this is going to be a really quiet game for Mike Evans. I'm talking like 3 catches for 18 yards kind of day. It's one of, he puts up a couple stinkers every season. I think this might be one of them for him.
Never know. It could be. He definitely has, like you said, 3 or 4 a season.
Yep. Well, last week he kind of had one.
That's it. So he might have a get right game today. Again, it's all about the matchup with PS2 to me. It's all about that.
Yep.
If he was up against any other defense, I'd probably say, yeah, get right game for him for sure. But Surtain might be the best corner in football.
I got no
he
choice.
Just plays on such a bad team.
I got to start Mike Evans just roster. There's no choice for me. But I just don't have anybody to fit in there.
And I'll say that Evans is kind of a luxury sit. It's more of that situation where if you're like, who do I start, Evans or pick the other guy.
If you have a deeper league, you can more of a luxury pick. You can like maybe you start like one of these Rams or 49ers guys over Evans.
Exactly.
Adam sits.
Jalen Waddle just was mentioned in that last question. I don't think there's going to be enough happening with Skylar Thompson right now for 2 receivers to get theirs. I wouldn't be able to trust Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle right now. So I'm going to sit Jalen Waddle and see how this plays out. Like Zim mentioned, Skylar Thompson's been there for a couple of years now. They're sticking with him. They obviously have some faith in him that he can get it figured out. So let's see what happens in the next couple games.
Yep.
Zach Moss, I've not been impressed at all with Zach Moss in Cincinnati. I haven't been impressed with Chase Brown really either. But that's another reason I think Joe Burrow blows up today. The Cincinnati running game has just not looked great. So Zach Moss is just on my bench until I see something consistent happen there.
I feel like today the Bengals could put 50 up on the Commanders today, man. If everything goes right, I think it's a prime spot for Burrow and company, even the running backs. But
yeah,
we'll see. We haven't seen it yet.
And Anthony Richardson versus the Bears. We talked about that game. I just think that's a bad matchup for him. I think all the Colts fantasy stats, all their players are all very fluky right now because it's all based on a couple of big plays that happened. Anthony Richardson only scored like 11 or 12 points last week, and that's because he didn't throw a 60-yard.
Yeah, it's not a good matchup for him.
Hail Mary pass that was caught, and so yeah, in a bad matchup, I was worried about Anthony Richardson from the beginning this year, so I'd bench him if I had another good option versus Chicago.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with you on Waddle. Aaron Jones versus the Texans. He's a little banged up. Texans have a good run defense too, as we found out last week. The Bears found out good all-around defense, to be honest. And then he's like 60-40 with Tyson Chandler in Minnesota. So
Tyson Chandler looks pretty good.
I was just going to say, Aaron Jones looks to be 30 years old, and Tyson Chandler looks fast. And then I got Fields versus the Chargers. Chargers don't give up a lot of points to the quarterback. I like Fields and stuff. I like what he's done there. But look, this isn't the Steelers are doing it with defense and then making enough plays on offense to get the wins. That's why they're 2-0. So I'm not looking for. Can Justin Fields break out? Sure. But not for me today. Someone had a comment here. Zamir White. Well, today is the day. If I have him as one of my running back starts, versus the Panthers, if it's not today, I think the Antonio Pierce, the coach of the Raiders, said that this guy needs to get the ball more. So.
Yeah, Pierce sticks to his guns and really tries to establish like an identity there on offense. That's how they're going to have to get it done. So,
yep.
If White's going to be good, this is the week, I think.
Got some prop plays here from the Goon. Likes Carson Steele over 46.5 yards rushing. I kind of like that too. I'm also on that play as well. Carson Steele, liked him in college. The Falcons are an okay defense, though. That's a little bit worry for me. I did bet this play because the Goon's been hot with his prop plays. So just trying to tail and get in a little bit on that magic. He's got Amari Cooper over 4.5 receptions and Trey McBride over 53.5 receiving yards. For me, at Carson Steele also, I like Khalil Herbert over 19.5 yards today. That's to me one of my favorite plays today. I think if they don't give him the ball, man, we need some new coaches, And then I got CeeDee Lamb over 6.5 catches. I think he gets 7 or more versus the Ravens. Any other thoughts you guys want to get to? I mean, we didn't have a lot of questions today.
Yeah, kind of quiet. It's kind of strange. I'm not used to this this slow of a day in our chat. So if you guys have any questions, feel free. Excuse me, but feel free to throw them all the way up to kickoff. We got 22 minutes here to keep adjusting those lineups, to get everything set in place, to find that guy that's going to win your game today. So
yeah, I don't know if I'll be keeping it running for 20 minutes though. If we're not getting any questions, I'm going to go and get started on my get my picture going with the Bears game and NFL Red Zone and the other.
Oh, absolutely.
Get it set up there.
What do you guys think for kicker? Should I get Cairo Santos or Tyler Bass?
I like Poppy. I think Poppy gets you three field goals today.
Yeah, the way the offense has been going, they're more likely to kick field goals right now.
And they're indoors.
That win.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a good environment. So.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of J.K. Dobbins today?
I think J.K. Dobbins has himself a day.
Yeah, especially with Herbert.
Steelers are really tough against the run.
Yeah, sure they are.
Time with Gus Edwards, but I mean, who else do you have, right?
That's it.
Harbaugh loves to run the ball. But do I bench Zamir White if he's – I think you play him this week, man. I'm playing – if he's in my lineup, I'm playing him against the Panthers.
You play him this week, and then in my opinion –
yeah, you try
if exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. You try to trade him to
bench him.
Whatever sucker in your league,
It's got
somebody will take him.
Dobbins over Caleb Williams in Superflex. Yes, I would play Dobbins.
Don't forget we have 2 Monday night games this week.
That's right.
So pay attention to that.
Bengals, right, are on Monday.
Jags, Bills, and Commies, Bengals. All right.
Yeah.
So pay attention to that for your lineups. If you've got multiple guys in those games that you're thinking about, throw them in a flex position maybe and give yourself some time to work.
It's like that's the thing with like T. Higgins. He's like, I'm gonna play, and then you get to Monday. It's the second game on Monday, right?
Yes. I mean, they're only 45 minutes apart, but yeah.
Play Dobbins over Caleb Williams in Superflex.
Yes, I would absolutely play Dobbins over Caleb Williams in Superflex.
Yeah, I think so.
Caleb Williams has not shown that he can be a fantasy quarterback yet. This might be the game, personally, I'm kind of banking on it being the game, but I was also banking on last week being the game.
Yeah.
I'm just a Bears fan. So as a fantasy manager, I think it's Dobbins. I think honestly, if there's other options available, like on the free agency path, I might even drop Caleb Williams and pick him up again in a few weeks after he gets adjusted.
In most leagues, I don't know if you can do that in Superflex, but in most leagues, I would definitely agree.
Yeah. I went ahead and did that in my non-Superflex league.
But either way, he'd be on my bench until you see it start happening. I mean, you're just not going to put him out there risking it every week until it starts happening.
Yeah.
Right. He's topping out at about 18 points through the first 2 games. And J.K. Dobbins seems like he's pretty capable of getting you at least those 18 points, especially against a weak run defense and with an injured quarterback where he's going to have to carry the load.
All right. Any other thoughts?
I think I'm getting out of here. That's my thought.
You got to get to work. You got to go to work, right?
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Any last thoughts from me? Not really.
Thanks for hosting today, too.
Yeah.
Zim,
I got watch the Bears game. Then I got a big honey-do list. Chores. There's always dishes. There's always laundry. There's always kids' homework.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my brothers. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks to Aldo Gandia and Barnum Network, Joe Mandel, the Goon, all the Barflies. Checking shows all week long.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We missed you, buddy.
Miss you, Joe.
Yep. All right, where's that? I'm going to roll that credits, boys.
All right, you guys have a great weekend.
Right on.
You too. Have a good day at work, man. Hope it doesn't interfere with the game too much.
All right, brothers.
I'll keep up.
Adios.